Well, it's time to get back to Dalvin Cook, fellas. We've talked a lot this offseason about Dalvin Cook. I recently had Coach Chris Rump on, and Sam and I got a chance to chat with him. His episode is going to air next week. He already texted me last night. He's like, "Hey, man, when can I send that to my wife? She's got to hear this because you did bring up a good point that I said I was wrong, and so I got to let my wife hear that one." So love Coach. He said anytime. So we're going to make sure we keep checking in with Coach Chris because, I mean, again, the fact that he's with the D-line, Danielle Hunter, you got all these new guys, Dean Lowry, we had to do that. And so he brought up the fact that the team, they're creating a picture and they have to paint it. Right now, that painter has moved on from Dalvin Cook. But Dalvin Cook wanted to paint a picture for the world. And here's the exact quote. I'm not going to change it at all. He said, if I walk into a situation, it's going to be a situation where I can be helpful to somebody to go take the next step trying to get that Lombardi trophy. That's all I've got on my mind. The money part is going to come. That's on my agent. Me, Dalvin Cook, I'm looking for somebody that's ready to win. I need to be a piece of a puzzle to help somebody turn the page to go win and turn that franchise to go get the Lombardi trophy. That's all I want. I want to hold that Lombardi trophy up, kiss it one time. That's all I'm looking for right now. And here's where I go with this. Great quote, great thought, but it's not going to work if you want to get paid. Those two things don't go together. I want to be paid and I want to go to a contender. The reason I said that, and we all talked about it before, is the salary cap. The salary cap of teams that he could go to that could win a Super Bowl. You got the Chiefs. They are very bottom. You got the Bills with his brother. Maybe, but they only have $5 million in cap space. Maybe you can consider the Giants a contender because Saquon Barkley wants to leave if they don't pay him. Other than that, I go up to like the 49ers with $10 million. My next one, maybe the Chargers with $12 million, the Eagles with $13 million, and the Dolphins with $13 million. You got the Bengals with $14 million. I'm going to go all the way up to the Jets. Jets with $23 million seems like the only team because you got the Bears, Cardinals, Panthers, Colts. Jets are the only team. He has to go play with Aaron Rodgers with the Jets if he wants to win a Super Bowl. They only have $23 million. I'm not sure they're going to give him an entire $23 million right now for this season. So what does he want? Is it 10 a year? Because he said 4 to 5 million is not what he wants. So I don't know what he wants. I don't know how much he wants to be paid. But if he wants $10 to $15 million a year, I don't know how many years he thinks that's going to get him and what he's worth off his injuries. But it's just a tough one. For me, he needs to take a pay cut and go play for the Jets and just go try to win in the next 2 years under Aaron Rodgers' tutelage and then maybe move on. The problem with moving on after that, though, is what's your value at that age? So the two don't always add up. He's made $23 million over 6 years. Now, that's a lot of money. But to a guy who sees other guys living $50, $60, $7 million lives, it probably doesn't feel like a lot of money. And so for Dalvin Cook, wanting to get paid, but also wanting to win a Lombardi and kiss it, I thought the Minnesota Vikings with $17 million right now in cap space they've cleared. Not to say he would come back for cheaper, but maybe the Dalvin Cook reunion might happen if nobody wants him. The Vikings are like, dude, we'll take you, but we're only going to give you $4 or $5 million like we talked about. And maybe that's why he threw that number out there. Maybe that was what the Vikings were trying to offer him to get him to take a pay cut at least for a year or two. And he didn't want to do it. We know Adam Thielen didn't want to be what is it called? A decoy. So I don't know where we go from there, but what you got, Luke?
Yeah, a lot of good points, Ron. I mean, this is not the offseason Dalvin was hoping for. He's starting to taste the hard reality of what being an NFL running back means now in the second half of your career in this new pass-happy league where even some of the best and biggest names get undervalued far more than they used to even just 3-4 years ago. I know he thinks he's going to come close to the 11 million he was lined up for this year, but I promise you he won't come close to that no matter who he signs with. I think his best bet at this point, being so late in the offseason, is just holding out, wait until maybe an injury happens during training camp or preseason to let him finally play with some leverage in these contract discussions. But end of the day, I got a hard time thinking he's going to take an extra 10 or 15% at most to go play for a team like Arizona or Houston versus going to play for a contender, because I think the ballpark I'm looking at, somewhere in that 5 to 7 million at the most per range is my guess. So do you want to play 5 with a contender, or do you want to make 7 with a below average team? I think the Broncos is the sneaky team here to think about. Russell Wilson, you got Sean Payton coming in. He's going to revamp the offense, but you still got the Dolphins and Jets as the favorites up on FanDuel.com.
Yeah, I certainly think that you've pegged his value appropriately. About 5 to 7 million probably feels right, but let's remember that we see this all the time in the league. There are very creative ways to structure You can backload it. You can do void years. And there might be a way for a team to get Dalvin more guarantees down the road, but only keep his cap number at like $5 million this year. So there could be a way where Dalvin sort of gets what he wants, and the teams can finagle the books with some accounting tricks and see that he gets a little bit more eventually. But in general, guys, these running backs, they're not like other positions. They want to get paid in assurances right now because they know their careers are short. Someone like Danielle Hunter, he might be okay hitting free agency because he knows that he's going to get paid a lot of money. Dalvin Cook doesn't know that. He's one bad injury away from bottoming out his already decreasing value. So I get why he wants to sign this thing right now and make sure he gets that money while he's still relatively young, because you get old fast when you're a running back.
I keep coming back to a few things here. One is, how much of this available cap space do teams want to spend on a running back? Two, and there are still some pretty good free agents available, and not only in general, but he's also competing for jobs with Ezekiel Elliott, Kareem Hunt, and Leonard Fournette. All those guys are older than him, but it's all about fit too. So where are these guys all going to land? Will one or maybe two of them have to be one of those in-season guys where the contract isn't guaranteed as a veteran and that sort of thing? So I come back to that. I also come back to, will his pride allow him to come back to Minnesota if the offers aren't there? And so it's hard once someone cuts you. I feel like, and Ron would obviously know the ins and outs of the NFL better as far as if guys really feel hurt when they're cut and that sort of thing. But I feel like, as much as it would be great to have him back in Minnesota, just because it'd be another option, it'd be another offensive weapon, I don't know if I see it. I like that Broncos call, though, because at this point, you got to just kind of let Russ cook, give him as much as you can. They dove into the deep end of the pool with Russ, and it's not a 10-foot pool. It's about a 50-foot pool. So that's what I like. I like that. And obviously the Dolphins are the wild card here. Maybe not even the wild card, maybe the favorite based on, his ties to the area.
I'm going to name some names. You guys just raise your hand. People listening, sorry, you won't be able to see the hands raised, but I'll make comments as they raise their hands. Raise your hand if you think Dalvin Cook is better than this back, and then I'm going to explain this. So just raise your hand. I'm gonna try to give cues to the people listening on the pod. For those watching on YouTube, and more reason for you people who are listening right now, go to the YouTube. You'll get to see us raise our hands and understand what this topic is about. But raise your hand if you think Dalvin Cook is better than this one. One last one before we get out of here. Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon.
I'd put a hand up there.
Okay, we got 3 hands up for Joe Mixon. Aaron Jones. We got 1 hand up with Luke. Tony Pollard.
Healthy Tony Pollard?
Healthy Tony Pollard.
I can't do it.
Josh Jacobs. Saquon Barkley. James Conner. Oh, 2
I'd
for
have
the
to look at the Conner
okay, 3
stats.
for the Conner.
Yeah.
Miles Sanders. 2. Austin Eckler. David Montgomery. 3. Bijan Robinson.
Ooh. Are we talking about building a team from
No,
scratch,
I'm just asking if you think he's better. Bijan Robinson.
One game.
I'm taking the young guy.
Okay, so here's where I go with
Fresh
this.
legs.
I got all the way down to $5 million a year. You guys only picked 2 guys that Dalvin Cook might be better than, and none of those guys make more than $7 million. So we know Dalvin Cook thinks he should be paid maybe like a Derrick Henry, like a Nick Chubb. These guys are at 16, 15, $12 million a year, 11. So that gives you guys an idea, people at home, of what Dalvin Cook wants. He does want something like that. He wants like a $10 million a year contract. But Luke, you hit the nail on the head. He's about a $7 million guy. Alexander Mattison is $3.5 million. So when you think about who do you think he's better than? And again, it's all relative to the offense, to what they're going to do. Is it going to be a screen game offense? Is it going to be a ground and pound offense? What type of line do they have? But at the end of the day, value versus what you're going to get from him. Value versus what you're going to get from him. How much do I want to pay and what am I going to get? It's going to be tough for Dalvin Cook. The only teams on this list that don't have a running back even on here are the Jets. The Jets are all the way down to Breece Hall at $2.2 million. I think Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook together with the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, seems like a good marriage, but maybe Dalvin Cook's asking for too much. But if he wants to be a contender, I'm gonna say, hey, look, I'll take $6 million, $7 million, and go be with the Jets. I mean, why not? They're a contender. But yeah, Brandon, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, pairing him up with a guy who's coming off an injury and on a rookie contract with the Jets, I think is probably the best fit. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it just seems like it fits to me. And again, I just had to get the number. I wanted to see where you guys were at from your, like, what would you do? Because I don't know. I mean, I look at that list and I kind of want to throw him up there in that top 7, but I just don't know. Like, I do think Dalvin Cook's better than some of those other guys I named. But it's a tough one. Like Derrick Henry, to me, he doesn't give you what Dalvin Cook gives you. So is Dalvin Cook worth 12.5? I think so, because Derrick Henry can't do the screen game stuff Dalvin can and run routes outside. Alvin Kamara is a different beast. Christian McCaffrey is a different beast. But I feel like Dalvin Cook should be up there in the top 5. But then is it top 5 money, though? And that's the question.